Alright everyone, so I figured I'd just kind of do like a recap of the season. I kind of did this last year a little bit. Honestly, I think a lot of this is good for me as well. So because of that, I just feel like if it's gonna be something that's good for me, I have to actually be truly, genuinely honest with myself. Because if I'm just gonna say things just because on a video out there in public, it's like, I'm not really getting to like the deep down real reasons as to why certain things maybe went wrong this season or certain things did go the way I was thinking. Like pretty much with anything that you do, like you kind of want to recap and reassess like what you've done and be brutally and blatantly honest with yourself. And if you can't do that, then you're not really gonna, I don't know, if you're not truly honest with yourself in the downs, you're not gonna really get yourself in the ups. So it's kind of what I was thinking. I figured I'd kind of do a little recap, and I don't know, I'm just literally sitting down here and talking. So if you guys want to just pop in AirPods and just listen to me talk, that's pretty much all I'm doing. I think one of the first things I noticed when I got to the US and I was getting ready for the 2020 Korn Ferry season, I was coming out of a long winter from New Zealand. Let me explain. So like in New Zealand, obviously it's the southern hemisphere. So when I was leaving New Zealand, it was winter down there, and it was kind of coming out of winter. Winter was about to end. And then I headed out to the US, back home, around November area, which is around where winter start here. So essentially for like the latter part of 2019 and 2020, the early part of 2020, I was in winter for a whole year. And I don't know how much of that played a factor into what could have contributed to like my struggles or anything. Maybe it doesn't even matter like how much something could contribute. I think it definitely did contribute a little bit though. I think it was definitely a factor. I don't know, I don't think having a year long of winter is good for anyone's game, but whatever that does to your game. And then this is a really weird one for me, just because I feel like usually I would assume that someone that's playing with less pressure would play better. There has to be like a healthy amount of pressure. So like you have to have a little bit of pressure, a little bit of stress for you to like produce your good results out there. But like the amount of pressure that I had in 2019 and on PGA Tour China, I mean, that was about as much pressure as I can put on anyone. Like you're having to play well for an entire season to come back to your country that you've grown up in an environment that you're not familiar with. I don't know how you can like fabricate a more like dire story. Like I was literally playing golf to try to come back home, and it was such a do or die kind of situation last year. I felt so freaking focused. I mean, understandably so. Like I was just really focused on what I was trying to do every single shot. There was like a different level of focus that I had, and I just didn't really have that same level of focus or same level of dire feeling or urgency, I guess, for every single shot, which honestly I'm not even blaming myself for that, because you want me to like fabricate in my mind that I'm trying to play my way back into the US again. Like, no, I know that's not true. So to a certain amount, like I'm not blaming myself for that at all. I just think it's very weird that, yeah, that sense of urgency that I had in PGA Tour China wasn't quite there in all of my shots. And I thought that was really interesting, because I thought it'd be opposite. I thought I would have a little bit less stress that allows me to kind of free myself up and play better and all that. So that was really weird to me. That's one of the things I haven't really I've thought about it through, and I've kind of tried to like think through what that means and everything, but I think it's one of those things that I just kind of gonna have to learn later on, once I'm kind of removed from the situation, I guess. Like just kind of seeing it from a third person view versus like I'm in the situation right now. It's kind of hard to see what's going on. And then another thing I was thinking of, so in 2020, when the lockdowns happened and everything, everyone was taking it seriously. Like in March, April, June area, when the whole lockdown stuff and everything, all that stuff was new. Like everyone else, I just kind of stayed at home, and I'd see a bunch of golfers that I know that they were hitting balls into nets. They were practicing at home. They were trying to keep their game sharp at home, and I think I got pressured a little bit by that, just kind of seeing that everyone else is kind of doing their stuff, and even though we're stuck at home and all that. I've always known as a kid that hitting balls into a net is not good for me, and I don't know, I should have known better to just do that again in the lockdown. But long story kind of short is I was hitting balls into the net, trying to come out of the lockdown better, like working on a couple things in my swing that I've kind of wanted to sort out a little bit, and I felt like I have an opportunity here. I have a lockdown, no one's playing any golf, you can't play any golf. This is kind of a little period where you can kind of do the things that you wanted to do to your technical stuff and get better, which, I mean, looking back, I still don't disagree with that. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of do those things, but probably not doing that into a net, because I've done that before in the past and it's never worked out. I think the fact that I was working on a couple things in my swing while hitting a ball into a net not being able to see where the ball's going and not seeing what the reaction of the ball is doing as I'm working on these things, I don't think that was good. Because I came out of the lockdown kind of doing some weird things with my swing. I developed some odd habits. Speaking of odd habits, I was doing like speed training while I was in the lockdown using those speed sticks. And I remember reading like, swing as hard as you can. You're not supposed to be thinking about swing mechanics right now. We're just trying to work on speed. Okay, fine, I did that. Yeah, out of lockdown, I had some very odd swing habits that I haven't really seen in my swing. And I'm almost certain that it came from the speed training. I feel like I was doing some weird things at the bottom of my swing around impact just to whip the club a little bit faster. Yeah, I was kind of spraying the ball a little bit when I kind of rely on my ball striking a little bit. It kind of had like a double whammy effect because for some reason I like derive a lot of confidence from the way that my swing looks. It's kind of weird. I mean, I don't think a lot of other players don't probably like that. I mean, even I know, like, who cares what your swing looks like? You're just trying to get the ball in the hole. You're just trying to hit fairways, hit greens, make the ball do what you want the ball to do, not what you want your swing to look like. It's not a beauty contest out there. So like, I know that, but I just think growing up as well, I just always derived a lot of that sense of confidence that I had in my ball striking, or like sense of like assuredness in my abilities and my ball striking, came from how my swing looked. And so in 2020, when I had all these weird habits going on, I wasn't really hitting the ball all that great. Compounded on top of that, I also didn't like how my swing looked. So it kind of like created like a downhill spiral a little bit. I mean, not saying I had like the swing yips or anything like that. It wasn't that severe. I'm just saying like I just wasn't really very satisfied with how I was hitting it. I think those two things, man, looking back, I wish I didn't touch a freaking club the whole lockdown. And honestly, that might have been better off for me. A lot of people like DM me in my Instagram asking me like, what can I do in the winter months when it's like snowed and everything? I'm probably not the right person to ask, because I think hitting balls indoors is the worst thing for me personally. I know obviously other people have done it and they've, you know, came out the lockdown fine, but yeah, for me, I would literally just putt only. That's it. I literally should have just had nothing but a putter in my hands the entire lockdown for 3 months and just groove my stroke, and pretty much what I should have done. And easy to say that now looking back, but and then the other thing I've kind of thought about, I mean, I kind of noticed it like during the season as it was happening. And if you guys are in my Patreon group, you guys have heard all this stuff I've been talking about pretty much as the season was going on. I've been doing live streams after tournament rounds and all that. I got to interact with you guys in there. I also do some putter head covers in there. I've sent out a couple putter head covers recently. I'm about to go send out some more because I haven't done one in a little while. But if you guys want to check out the Patreon group, I'll put that in the link in the description. I remember kind of in the first half of the KORN FERRY season on 2020, I just wasn't really quite feeling like I belonged, meaning like I felt like my game was noticeably not as good as other players. Some of that was because of results based. I just kept on, like, I would make the cut and then not really do anything on the weekends. I would just kind of, you know, finish like 45th or 50th or whatever. And honestly, that was getting really annoying for a while, which that's a good sign to realize it's getting annoying that you're only, you know, finishing like 45th after making the cut. It means you kind of like moved on from that step. So it's definitely a good thing to think that. But I specifically remember Springfield, Missouri, 2020. It sounds a little bit silly saying this, but like, hear me out, it makes sense. So like after like 2 rounds, I think I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 under. I don't remember what it was, but after those 2 rounds, I think I was like in 17th place. And again, it sounds silly now that I'm saying this out loud, but like in my head, I just felt a lot more comfortable being out there on the tour. I felt like I finally belonged, even though that wasn't the whole tournament. I know it was just after the 2nd round, not a big deal, but just the fact that I could see my name above all these players that, you know, were playing well for the whole season after 2 rounds, me being up there at 17th place, just mentally, it really helped me kind of feel your game is really not that far off. Like, you're not that far off from playing some really, really good golf. And, you know, it helped me kind of feel more comfortable on the tour, feel more like I belonged, feel more like my game is good enough out here. So that's kind of something I noticed midway through the 2020 season. And then I haven't really talked about 2021 that much so far. I played well in one good event this year. It was the KORN FERRY Tour in Dallas, which was kind of cool. I got to play well in my hometown here. That was the one I actually got a sponsor's invite into, but it also helped that the week before the Dallas event, Monday qualified into the Las Vegas KORN FERRY. I kind of went on like a decent stretch of golf there. And I came to a crossroad, like May, June, I kind of came to a crossroads into like, what am I going to do in terms of what events am I going to be picking right now? So, because something that you guys maybe won't realize right now, and you guys probably find interesting, is halfway through this year, I actually went down to go play a few events on PGA Tour Latin America, even though I was in the field in KORN FERRY Tour. I decided to withdraw myself from the KORN FERRY Tour events and go play Latin America. During the time when I had to make that decision, I was probably, I don't know, like 170th on the money list or something like that. Obviously nowhere near close to making or keeping my card, but if I had a couple good events, yeah, it could have happened. I had enough events on the KORN FERRY tour to maybe make something happen. But the reason why I went down to go play Latin America, I went to go play, there was one tournament in Miami, there was another one in Quito, Ecuador, that was one I was just filming a little while ago, and Colombia. Oh, and then one more in Mexico, Tulum. I went down to go play those because here's the thing with KORN FERRY tour, and I'm not bitching, I'm not complaining about it, because honestly, I don't really even know what the solution is. But the sucky part about the KORN FERRY tour is that it's weird to me that when you're on the KORN FERRY tour, you're literally one step away from the PGA Tour, but you're also one step away from square zero. You're starting all over again. You don't have status anywhere for the next year. If you don't play well in the season and you lose your KORN FERRY card, you don't even go back to PGA Tour Latin America or Canada or China. You don't even have any of that. You lose everything. So let's say I didn't choose to play the last few events in Latin America, and instead I chose to play all the events remaining on the KORN FERRY tour. Let's say I played okay, but I didn't keep my card. Let's say I finished 130th on my list or something like that. I don't have anything. I don't have PGA Tour Latin America status. I don't have PGA Tour China status. I don't have nothing. I'm literally going back to playing like mini tour stuff. Like that to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It also doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to skip KORN FERRY events that I'm literally in the field for, but I'm looking out for next year and making sure I have somewhere to play next year. If I could have it my way, I would have just played well in Miami for the Latin America event and then just played the rest of the KORN FERRY events. That didn't quite happen because I just didn't really do anything until the last Latin America event, which is really stressful. That tournament that I had in Mexico was one of the tightest courses I've ever played, and I've played in PGA Tour China, which are all like super tight. It was even tighter than that. So it was a really stressful week. But I ended up getting the job done in Mexico. I got my card secured for next year in PGA Tour Latin America as a backup plan. But like, I just had this stretch of just okay golf kind of here in this like last month or two or so. And I think a lot of that was probably coming down to my wedge play. When I was in New Zealand, we had to like shag our own balls on the range that I was at. Honestly, out of laziness, I didn't want to hit like too many iron shots or tee shots because I had to walk further to go grab the balls and, you know, hit them again. Literally out of laziness, I was just hitting wedge shots 90% of the time as I was in New Zealand in 2019. Funnily enough, that actually produced a really good result in PGA Tour China because I kept on just stuffing wedge shots over and over again. And I'm kind of thinking I should just kind of go back to that, kind of go back to hitting wedge shots a lot, almost making it like the majority of my practice, because I keep having a lot of these wedge shots where I'm just not like stuffing them in there close enough or often enough. And then the other thing I've kind of thought about, if you like took too much to heart with where you ended up on the leaderboard in KORN FERRY events, it kind of compounded, and it can go either good or bad. It can compound into something better, or it can compound into something worse. Meaning, like, if I see myself up on the leaderboard like in 10th place, yeah, I'm gonna feel great, and that compounds my confidence into more confidence into thinking, hey, I belong out here. You know, it validates your game, it validates everything you're doing. That compounds into more confidence into what you're doing and every single shot that you're hitting, which produces better results. That compounds into more confidence. So you see like this like snowball effect that happens. On the opposite side, it happens as well. So like you keep on finishing like 45th, 50th on the you know, after you make the cut, and it's like, man, I feel like, you know, I am just so far behind the leaders. You feel like your game's just not really quite there. You feel like you got to make all these changes. You don't have as much conviction behind what you're doing. That lowers your confidence. Because your conviction's lowered, because your confidence is lower, that produces less results, and it just like snowballs into the opposite way, into the bad way as well. So it's like, I saw this like very interesting dynamic this year because of that kind of snowball effect, because I was on the other side of that in 2019 where it's kind of snowballed into the better side. So like I, you know, won my tournament in PGA Tour China on the 5th event, and that validated everything that I was doing right there. It's like I almost like expected to be like top 5, top 10 on every single event. Yeah, it's like confidence begets confidence, and doubt begets doubt. Like it's more exaggerated. Like it's never really like, oh, this is where my confidence level is. It's never like appropriate. It's almost like skewed and exaggerated to the extremes a little bit more. That was really interesting to see that kind of happen to me as well. But obviously there were some good things that came out of the season. I mean, I felt like my short game was leaps and bounds better this year. I'm definitely a lot more confident with my short game. That game that I've been playing that I put in the top right corner there, it's definitely had the effect on my game that I was thinking it was going to. Ball striking has been better this year than it was in 2020. Wedges, definitely, I gotta think of something for that, because I think I pretty much have to be doing wedges like all the time. these last 2 years, I do definitely feel like I took a little bit of a step back, which this whole thing is not a linear process. It's not you getting better every single season, and I'm definitely not that far off. I feel like I've been saying that for the last like month or two in my Patreon group, like a lot, because I feel like the results just haven't really been quite coming like I feel like they should, and I feel like I'm so close to having some good results come out, and it just never really came, you know, in this latter part of the season here recently. It's kind of frustrating, but I know I have KORN FERRY Q School coming up here in a little bit. The deadline's, you know, kind of coming up here soon. I don't know if I'm going to sign up for KORN FERRY Q School. I don't know. I mean, it's $6,000 for Q School that I just don't really have a whole lot right now because of all the expenses from all the, you know, travel from KORN FERRY Tour and everything, and paying for caddies and everything like that. Like, KORN FERRY Tour is very expensive, and if you're not playing well, those expenses really hurt. So yeah, the whole like KORN FERRY Q School thing, signing up and paying $6,000, I don't know if I'm gonna do it. I'll put my email down there if you guys want to email me and help out with the KORN FERRY Q School costs. If you want, you can. I mean, if I don't play it, it's not that big a deal. Like, I'm not gonna be kicking myself too much about it, but it's like going down there to Q School and knowing that, hey, I was on the KORN FERRY Tour this year, compared to, you know, these other guys that maybe haven't been on the KORN FERRY Tour and they're going through Q School for the first few times. You know, it's like they've never been on the KORN FERRY Tour before. I just feel like mentally I have a little bit of an edge on top of other people. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying I would be more comfortable being out there. So I don't know, we'll see. If anyone wants to help out, they can. But that's it for me today, guys. If you guys made it all the way to the end of the video and listened to all of my rambling, please make sure you give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out whenever you guys do that. And if you're new here and you're not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey guys, if you're wanting my help to improve your golf, I put everything I know into my 2 programs here. In this one, I show you everything that you need to see in your swing in order to be a good ball striker, and if you don't see these things, I show you how to fix it. And in this one, I show you the course management knowledge that elite level players use to play good golf, and these are the things that I wish I knew a long time ago. If you want more information, check out the links in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support me and my journey, it'd be awesome to have you as one of my patrons, where you get access to a private group where I do live streams after my tournament rounds, have exclusive content for patrons only, and even do the occasional giveaway with signed putter head covers. Information about that is also in the description below.